Welcome back everyone to another Mythfall devlog. If you're new to the channel, I'm building a browser-based bullet hell MMO from scratch in Golang and documenting the process along the way. This week I really wanted to focus on improving the sense of progression that Mythfall has. So I've been working on that for the past couple of weeks, but that's been the major goal, but I've also done a few other things I'll talk about as well. But yeah, let's hop right into it. One of the first things that I worked on was adding upgrade tiers to the NPCs. So now you can talk to an NPC and they actually have NPC names now as well. But basically now recipes have different tiers to them. So as you can see, I've only unlocked the initial starting point for the forge. And I have these, this upgrade panel over here where I can bring 10 gold, 8 iron ore, and 8 driftwood. And I can use that to upgrade to an iron forge. Then the iron forge will let me craft all of these items that are kind of hidden right now. So once I unlock that, I'll be able to craft new items and new gear. I like this more than the past crafting system. In the previous one, you would get like a wooden dagger and you'd combine that with iron ore to create a iron dagger. But the problem with that was that when people would get all the way up to obsidian, they would have to craft through all of the tiers. And then if they die, they'd lose an enormous amount of progress. So I wanted to reduce that and I wanted to add more permanent progress. So this is kind of a more permanent version of the same sort of thing. So I like this a lot better. And I think it's worked out pretty well. And all of the shops have this same sort of concept where you upgrade them to unlock more recipes. And I'll continue to expand on this concept and add more items and stuff like that too. But I think this is a pretty good start for it. Another side note about this is now there is gold, which your account can collect. And to get gold, you basically go over here. Well, there's several ways you can get gold actually. One of the ways is getting items and selling them to this merchant who exists in town. He doesn't have super good sell rates. He sells at like 1 to 10 ratio. So you can collect gold and buy some gear that you're not able to craft yet, which I think is cool. But then also if you go into dungeons, you'll find similar merchants who sell at better rates, but they're inside of dungeons, so they're a little bit harder to bring items to. So that balances that out a little bit, I think. And yeah, one other permanent upgrade that we added to the game was teleporters. So previously you used to be able to teleport to any of the teleporters in the game. And right now I have them all unlocked. But the change that I added for this was now there's these teleporter set pieces that exist, and you'll basically have to interact with them. And when you interact with them, you'll open a crafting menu that'll let you purchase the teleporter. And these exist all over the world. The main reason that I wanted to change it to this for the teleporters was that when a new player joins the game, I don't want them to immediately teleport to one of the end game biomes just because they'll just die immediately. So I changed it so that now you have to run there, unlock it, and then you can go to the next one and unlock it. And then once it's unlocked for that biome, it'll be unlocked for every single time the sphere regenerates. And then the position of these gets randomly placed when the sphere respawns. So I think it's a pretty good system, and there might be a few tweaks in the future. I might reduce the prices a little bit, but I think this is also a pretty good start. Another thing you probably noticed is the character sprite has now changed, as well as a lot of the NPC sprites are also changed. So I changed those with my artist to make the game look a little bit nicer and have a little bit bigger sense of identity. We also added a few new haircuts. So now there's short hair, long hair, so you can be a girl if you want to. And there's also all of the original haircuts as well, so you can have your mullet if you need it. So that's what that looks like. I also changed, or I updated how the monster projectiles look. So now they have a little bit of a glow to them. So if you run over here, you'll see one. It has a glow with the projectile, as well as when it spawns, it does a little bit of a particle effect, just so you can see what's spawning. And I think it looks pretty good. And then I have different colors that these can be generated from, and I'm sure I'll show a clip of the different colors in some boss fight. But along with the aesthetic improvements for the monster projectiles, I also improved how the player ones look. They look a little bit more juicy now. They actually interpolate their position now rather than previously where they would just have a fixed velocity that they would move at, and they'd have kind of a slow down acceleration, which was really hard to balance. So now I interpolate it with like an easing function, and it looks pretty good now. Same with dashing. Dashing used to be this linear thing, but now I interpolate it as well. So you can kind of dash faster and you slow down at the end, which I think makes it feel a little bit more natural. And I think it looks a little bit better. I also changed how gravestones work. So now there's different gravestones depending on what level you get to, or the number of stats that you've maxed out on your character. So for example, you can see I died here. It's kind of a unique one. And if I died on this character, I'd have like a little cross made out of sticks as my gravestone. That's like the default one. It kind of builds up and gets larger and more intricate depending on how far your account has progressed. And then the another thing I added was this new backpacking system. So basically you can get cloaks and backpacks. They go into a cape slot now. So as you can see, there's a cape slot, and you can equip that. And then you have this backpack panel that pops up at the top over here. So you can start dropping things in your backpack like this. You just drag them and drop them, like that, and you can fill up your backpack. This particular cape only has 4 slots in it, so now the backpack's full. We can't hold any more stuff in it. But you can go to your bank and deposit your backpack. That's the only place you can deposit your backpack, is in the bank. So there's a button here which lets you deposit all your items from your backpack to the bank. You can click that and they get deposited. Same with equipment, same with inventory. Those buttons exist now as well. So that's probably makes it a little bit easier for people to change their equipment sets, which I like. In addition to those improvements, I also added this new character stat panel. So now you can see all of your equipment as equipped, and you can also see your character stats. So you see I've maxed all of my stats. There's also your bonus stats over here, which shows any other gear you have equipped. Like for example, if I equip a bunch of stuff, you'll see I have like different lifesteal chances, lifesteal power, and I might have some crit or bonus damage, stuff like that, based off of like skills or whatever. You can also see the skill point progress, and I wanted to add this so that people had a better understanding of what they need to do to unlock new skill points. Because previously that was like a big question I had always received, which was like, what do I need to do to get the next skill point? So this explains it a little bit. Basically, it'll track bar will increase as you level up your stats. As you can see, I've maxed all of my stats, so all of the bars are green and completed, and I've gotten skill points for each of those. And then there's kind of this continual skill point bar at the top, which is based off of your honor level, and before that it's based off of your experience level, because those two are kind of tied together. So once you get the next skill point from this, like if I get 3000 XP, I got the next skill point. You can see I went to 11 there, and the bar increased to the next threshold that I need to meet to get the next skill point. So that's kind of how that works. And yeah, I hope this makes things a little bit clearer for people so they understand like what the next progression thing is to do. One of the other updates that was added this patch, or which was added and now removed this patch, or devlog cycle, was adding the Halloween event. So we did have a Halloween event. It lasted for about 2 weeks. It was basically a wave-based arena where you'd go in, fight 5 waves of regular mobs, and on the 5th wave you would fight a boss. You'd have like a boss battle, and it would kind of just continue indefinitely. And then every single time you fought a boss, you would get some kind of difficulty enhancement from the wave. So either the monsters would do 15 more damage, or you'd get an extra boss on the next boss wave. So it kind of be fun. You'd end up with like monsters doing a lot of damage, and you'd have a lot of bosses to fight at the same time. But it was also a cool place for people to practice fighting some of the late game bosses with low damage, because you'd fight a late game boss, but he'd only deal like 15 damage, which is pretty low based off of the like defense stat, because that's been added recently. Whenever you defeated a boss, whenever you defeated a boss level, you'd get a carnival ticket, and you could use the carnival tickets to purchase hats from the Halloween shop. So that was kind of the Halloween event for this year, which I think was pretty fun. I think people liked it. It was a good test experiment for having wave-based dungeons. So I think that was a fun little thing to test around, and maybe I'll add a actual dungeon in the future too. So all right, so this is the new dungeon that got added this devlog cycle, and that's called the Necromancers Garden. It's got some interesting little mobs you fight going in. I like the I added a lot of like glow and stuff like that to these little mushrooms. So these are all little lights that add to the lighting system, which I think looks pretty cool. But let me get to the bosses and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, so this is the boss room. The concept for this one was that there's 2 bosses that you fight at the same time. One of them's called Duskroot, one of them's called Dawnwood, and they each kind of have their own little attacks, which are kind of similar. They basically cast out these roots that you'll see here in a second, like so. They do that, and they also do that in like a lot of different patterns and stuff like that. And but the basic idea is that you'll fight one, and then you'll fight the other one, and the one you kill at the end will decide what loot table you get. So depending on which one you kill, you'll get a different loot table, which I think is kind of an interesting little prioritization for the group to decide. I think it's a fun little balance, and they have a lot more attacks, but I won't go through all of that right now. I just wanted to show you guys kind of what it looked like at the entrance. So yeah, anyways, that's all I have for this week. As always, an absolutely massive thank you to all the supporters on YouTube, Twitch, GitHub, and Patreon. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.